Let me give you a year.
Go ahead. Yeah.
In
So
1950, I came down with a bad case of malaria, and I'm sitting in front of the supply tent when it first hit me, and I dropped my lunch, and I bent over and I upchucked.
ugh.
Uh, and then the next thing I remember, I was in the mass unit.
How did you know it was malaria?
I didn't until they told me.
But how bad did you feel other
Horrible.
than throwing up?
One minute you're freezing, and the next minute you're burning up.
So you had a fever?
I had a fever, and then the next minute you're cold, just like ice.
And you were in Korea?
Yeah, I was in Korea,
What was the year?
1950.
1950. So so you passed out,
Yeah,
and the next thing you knew, you were in a mass unit.
right.
A marble. What is that? Not a marble, but a mobile army. What is it? Mobile Army
Mobile
Surgical
Army Surgical
Hospital.
Hospital.
Oh, okay. So how long did it take you to get over malaria?
It took me about 2 weeks. They kept me in the hospital in the rear, about 2 weeks, and then they come to me and told me one day, they said I could pack up because I could go back to my unit.
Oh, you couldn't go home because of that?
I couldn't go home. I wasn't bad enough to go home on.
But once you caught malaria, could you catch it again?
I don't know.
Did you still have to take a pill every day
Oh yeah,
until
yeah.
you got home?
I took it after I got home. I took it. I had several attacks after I got back here home. I had several attacks of it.
You want to tell me the story about when they dropped y'all off on the hill?
When they done
When they
what?
first dropped y'all off over there?
Well, we didn't know anything because we were all just about 18, 19-year-old kids. And we didn't know nothing about war. And our company commander told us before we went, we were on maneuvers down at Mount Fuji.
Mm-hmm.
And at nighttime, and they called us. They said, pack up and go back in. And we thought it was part of the exercise.
Right.
And so we packed up everything and we went back in, and we all went into the mess hall, and the company commander was there, and he held a meeting, and he told us, he said, North Korea has just invaded South Korea.
Uh-oh.
He said, and most likely we'll be going over there. He said, and this will separate the men from the boys.
I bet.
And very shortly after we got over there, he got wounded.
Mm.
He got shot. It went in his shoulder, come out his elbow.
Ouch.
And of course, he went home.
Yeah.
And the two men that were with him, his Jeep driver and I guess bodyguard, they got him out of the Jeep and got him into safety, and then got him to the first aid, and they both got promotions. Not great, way high, but they probably got to a corporal or sergeant or something like that.
Right.
And because they say actually saved his life. And
But what happened when y'all were on the hill and you heard something coming?
we what?
When you were up on the hill and y'all heard something coming? You saw something?
Oh, an airplane?
No. The tanks.
Oh, no, we wasn't up on the hill.
Oh.
This is the hill. We were headed down here, dug in right in front of the hill.
Right.
And we didn't, like I said, we were 18 years old. We didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, look down the road, and here comes some tanks around the corner, and there were North Korean tanks.
Oh, my.
And they fired point blank on us. We jumped out of the holes and run up on the mountain and to get behind it.
Right.
And that's when I saw my first casualty. Half of his face was blown off.
Oh, my. That's horrible.
Of course, I didn't stop to look at him. I just kept right on running.
Kept running,
and
right.
got over behind the hill. That was our first day of combat, and we learned real quick what war was about.
Yeah, I bet.
And then for the next year, we were in and out of battles all the time. I went over there June the 9th, 1950. No, July 9, 1950, because it broke out June 25th. I went over there July 9th from Japan, and I left the next July 13th to come home.
A year?
Went there a little over a year. That's what they were doing, rotating people a year at a time.
Would you have gone back if they asked you to? If they sent you back?
Yeah, I would have went back, yeah. And I wouldn't have had no choice.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't have wanted to went back, but I would have.
Would you fight today if they asked you to?
If I had to, yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Not many people would.
I know what it's all about now.
Yeah.
I know when you see somebody over there with a gun looking at you, you shoot him before he shoots you.
Yeah. So before you were shipped out, did they teach y'all how to shoot and everything?
Oh, we were already trained in shooting and
Were
firearms.
Were you good at shooting?
I was a sharpshooter. That's not the top.
Right.
Top is expert. I was sharpshooter, so that's down a little bit, but it's good enough.
Did y'all have snipers?
Yeah, we had snipers, and so did they.
Did you carry grenades?
Yeah, I had a couple of grenades. When I first went over there, I carried an M1 rifle. Everybody carried one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got into communications. I was radio operator. Then I changed to carry a carbine and a 45.
Right.
And I was trained in both of them. And so I carried a carbine and a 45 the rest of the time I was over there. And because I was up on the front lines and back again, because I was forward observing, directing the mortar fire. And so I was up on the front lines for a while, and then they were relieving me. I'd go back to the back for a while, and then they'd put me back up on the line. And that's where you really learn what war is about, on the front line.
Is it like you see in the movies? All the shooting
Similar.
and loud and banging and explosions?
Similar to that, yeah. Because you have artillery shells coming in and they're exploding. You have mortar shells coming in and they're exploding. And of course, the enemy is throwing hand grenades and they're exploding. So you pretty well, television pretty well, they're extreme.
Right.
But when you bring it down a little bit, that's basically what happens.
Mm.
And of course, like I say, we were only a bunch of 18, 19-year-old kids is all we were. We had a few older people that had been in the Second World War, but not many. Our first sergeant, he had been in the Second World War. And I drove a Jeep for him the last 3 or 4 months I was over there. I drove a Jeep. Because the Jeep driver, he had been his Jeep driver the whole time, and he come to me and asked me, would I trade with him? Like I was going to say no.
Right.
And he knew what I did. And I said, yeah, I'll trade with you if your sergeant says it's all right. So sergeant said it was all right. We traded. So he took my place and I took his.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a comfort job.
What was the worst experience you had over there in Korea?
When I got an ambush.
You got ambushed? What happened?
We were going down the road and there was hills on both sides of the road. Me and my buddy was sitting in the truck. He was sitting on this side.
Right.
And we went in 3/4 ton trucks because we pulled our mortars with the 3/4 ton truck.
Mm-hmm.
And I was sitting here and he was sitting here. I looked up on the hill as we were coming through it. I saw some movement, but it didn't hit me about being on an ambush.
Right.
And all of a sudden, the fire broke loose, the shooting. And I jumped up like this and turned and jumped off the back of the truck. My buddy, he jumped up behind me, but I was off the truck and he was just getting ready to jump off and he got shot right in the back.
Oh, he survived?
No.
Mm.
And that's how close I came. That's about as close as I came to being shot.
That almost stopped your heart, doesn't it?
Almost. I'll tell you, we jumped off and it was ditches everywhere over there. And we fell in the ditch to get below the truck and the hills. And of course, very shortly after they hit us, they brought in the airstrike.
Mm.
And the airstrike took care of the snipers.
Did y'all ever have a time where there wasn't enough food?
Oh yes, several times. Yeah,
How did y'all get your food?
we usually got it in in little boxes. Come and it had different stuff in their cans, little small cans of like beans and franks and stuff and like that, all that.
Mm-hmm.
And in every kit they had one beans and franks, and everybody would fight over them because all the other stuff was terrible. They had corned beef hash in a can. When you open that can up, that much of the top was grease, and you had to rake all that stuff because you had no way to heat it.
Right.
And about once a month, the mess truck would come up, and we'd get a hot meal. About once a month,
Mm-hmm.
they'd come up, and of course we stayed back in the back most of the time, and they would come up and set up their truck, and we'd get a hot meal. About once a month. And bath was whenever you could find a puddle of water to take a bath.
Didn't they tell y'all one time that you're going to get a nice hot shower?
Yeah.
What happened?
They come set up a great big tent. Tent was almost long as this house, and they said we were going to get a hot shower. We all stripped down, run through there, and that water was ice cold. I think that was the quickest shower I ever took. Man.
That's
they did
funny.
that so we'd go, because they told us it was cold, we wouldn't have went in there.
Mm-mm.
So they told us it was hot, and we went through there to get a hot shower. We didn't get one.
I just can't imagine living like, because you lived like that. That's how y'all lived when you were out on patrol. Like, you didn't have a house to stay in. You didn't have a bed to sleep in. You didn't have home-cooked meals.
No, we didn't. The only time we could sleep in a house was if we took a village
Right.
and it was empty.
Right.
Then we could find a house we could get in. We'd sleep in the house.
But you'd sleep on the floor.
Oh yeah, well with the
I mean, it was
floor,
dirt
the old,
floors.
straw mats, straw on the floor, and sometimes it was just a dirt floor.
Right.
And we had our sleeping bags, and we'd jump in our sleeping bags and sleep, no matter whether it was a dirt floor or pine straw floor or what. We'd sleep like that. Of course, now South Korea looks like a big modern city now.
Oh, yeah.
And I'd imagine that they've done away with most of the rice paddies.
Probably. I don't know.
I think that was bad when you had to run through the rice paddy because you had water about that deep.
Yeah.
And it was muddy, and you had to run through that thing to find a place to hide. And it was an experience that I would never want to go through again at 18 years old.
Right. Grow up fast.
Huh?
You have to grow up fast.
You really did. You growed up that day when we were below the mountain, the hill, and that tank shot on us. That was the first day of combat, and we learned what it was right then. When we run back over the hill,
Yeah.
we learned what it was. That's when I got the medal, the rifle, the badge of the rifle, a combat infantry badge is what they call it.
Right.
And it's a badge and it's got a rifle in it. That means it's combat. And they give them to people in the rear, but they didn't have no rifle on them. Because it wasn't in combat.
Did y'all ever capture people?
I didn't personally know.
Did your platoon ever catch people?
Some of the men did, yeah, but I didn't ever catch any. I didn't want to catch none. I didn't want them.
What do they do when they caught them? They turn them over?
Take them into the rear and turn them over to the MPs, and they take them all back and put them in the compound.
Did anybody want to surrender?
Some of them surrendered, not to me personally,
right, but they just
to some of the other people they surrendered. Yeah, I was never in a position to take prisoners. When I was in communications, I operated the radio for the forward observer. He was always in front of me, and he was calling back to me what to call on the radio to the people in the rear. And but then somehow we got changed places. I was in front and he was in the rear, and I was doing the giving the information to the gunner back there to how to fire, where to fire.
Right.
And that's as close as I came to being into combat. I never was in no hand-to-hand fighting. I was in 3 major battles. I got 3 Bronze Stars on one of my ribbons, and that indicates 3 major battles.
Right.
And right now I can't even tell you what they were or where they were, because at that time I wasn't thinking about medals. I was thinking about my life.
Yeah.
And
do you ever have flashbacks? Bad flashbacks?
Years ago, but I haven't had any in a long time.
So you understand when people suffer from that, why they would suffer.
I understand completely what those men are going through over there in Afghanistan and Vietnam and all that. I know what those men are going through. Yeah, I know. Only they're going through worse than what I went through, because of Vietnam, they had jungles over there, and we didn't have jungles.
Mm-hmm.
We had hills, high hills, but we had no mountains, and we didn't have no jungles. And so as far as that goes, we served a little better than they did, because they had to put up with jungles, going through jungles and fighting, and they were running into ambushes almost all the time.
Right. And
we wasn't. And that one ambush was the only one I was ever in. And but usually the way was cleared before we went up, but they missed that one. And good thing the snipers were only on one side. If they'd have been on both sides, I'd have probably been killed too.
Wow.
But they were only on one side of us, and we we were down below the truck and the hill, so they couldn't see us. And then they called in an airstrike, and that took care of them.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, we'll close this session out, and maybe tomorrow we'll talk some more about some more memories over there. So, well, I'll ask you one more question. What do you think about these young people who like to burn the flags and tear up the flags and not stand with the United States?
Burning the flag is bad, but it's only a piece of cloth. It means something to me, whether they burn it or don't burn it. It still means something to me. To them, it don't mean nothing to them.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're stupid.
Right.
But it doesn't bother me if they burn the flag, because it's still in here. And that just shows how stupid they are.
Do you think that if they spent a year fighting like you did, that they would appreciate the flag?
They wouldn't burn the flag no more.
Yeah.
They wouldn't burn it. If they just spent just a few months, they wouldn't burn the flag no more.
They would appreciate life, maybe.
They would appreciate the freedom that we have in this country.
Yeah.
I mean, the flag means freedom.
Yep.
And everywhere we went, if there was a North Korean flag there, that thing came down and the American flag went up. Everywhere we went, we put American flag.
Yep.
And but an American flag to me means freedom. To those dumb people, it doesn't mean anything to them, because they're dumb.
Yeah. All right. So, we'll close this out for today, and we'll pick it back up tomorrow. This is Tammy.
You got the wrong information.